Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ben DiCostanzo. I'm a certified real estate instructor. I've been teaching the real estate class for over 30 years, and I'm in the business for 52 years. Anyone that wants to get a real estate license, there's only one thing that you have to do, and that's to follow this course. We're going to take our time. We're very passionate, very motivated, and very determined for you to pass the school test and the state test. I want to say that once you go online or once you go into school and you follow this program, you're going to be way ahead of the competition. Knowledge is power. Education is a treasure, and we'll follow you everywhere. We got so much to cover. There are 20 chapters you might have heard of. But let me first tell you what a real estate license looks like. It looks like that. And this is perforated, and that's a pocket card. It's going to have one of our companies. There is so much information to share, and one thing that many other programs do not do is take their time. So we have to be real serious and take our time. There's only one thing we want, is your testimonial. And we have 20 chapters we're going to talk about. Have a notebook ready or your iPad and write it down. Again, my name is Ben. So we're going to go on chapter 1. Let's dive right into it. Chapter 1 is license law and regulations. And the first line starts out the purpose of the law. The purpose of the law. And what's the name of the law? Article 12A. I want you to repeat. The purpose of the law is to protect the public. What are we protecting the public against? Unscrupulous real estate agents and brokers and incompetency. What do I mean? I could tell you a lot of things that happened in all the decades that I'm in, that someone falsified deeds and stories that we hear, and someone cashed other people's checks and things like that. The purpose is to protect the people that you're going to be working with. And there's so much to learn about to get through the test, but at the same time, we're going to teach the law and teach the business, and we're going to integrate it all in one. It protects the public against unlicensed and incompetent real estate practitioners. So a lot of things that you may hear about what goes on. But incompetency part is you go out, you show a property, the taxes are $10,000 a year, and you tell them they're $5,000 a year. The heating bill is $3,000 a year, and you tell them it's $2,000 a year. Competency is really important, and that's what's going to happen here. You're going to become extremely competent by following this program step by step, day by day. Now, what did I say is the name of the law you need to know? Why do I say this? I went into a lot of classes, and I asked them after they did 20 hours of the course, and I said, what's the name of the law you're studying? 90% of the class didn't know. What's the name of the law? Write it down. Article 12A. Well, you could go on the internet right now. You could go on Google. You can plug in Article 12A. But you need to know license law and regulations is chapter 1. And it starts for the purpose of having Article 12A, which goes back into the 1930s. Yeah, we'll give you a lot of history. So we got that down. And I'll be so repetitive, it's going to instill up here. Article 12A is license law and regulation. That's only chapter 1. And the purpose is, one last time, is to protect the public. What are you, on the exam, what are you protecting the public against? Unscrupulous real estate agents and brokers and incompetency. So you want to know your information. You want to know the facts of the property and what you need to know to let the client know. By the way, in the course, who's the client? The client is the one that pays you, whether that's a buyer or that's the seller. Well, it's similar to like having a license, a driver's license. You know, you're not supposed to drive without a driver's license. You gotta, take a course. You gotta take a small little test, and then you gotta pass the driver's license test. And the same thing, in order to collect the fee, you need to have a real estate license, and that's what we're walking to you. Bullet point 3, establishes education and state examination requirements. Well, education this is not a certified course. Let me get that information out. This is not a required course. This is an overview to step you ahead. So you need 77 hours, whether you go into school or you go online. And the state, there's a state examination. So there are 2 tests. Well, sometimes there's many tests. The school may give you 10 or 20 tests after each chapter. We're going to also provide many, many questions and answers to keep you ahead of the game. So the state, any state you're in, you have to take the state test. Next bullet point, it's illegal to provide real estate services without a license. Again, you have to be licensed. Administered by the Department of State. You see that on the PowerPoint. You'll see that on the board. Who is in charge of the real estate business? That's called the DOS, or DOS, write that down, stands for the Department of State. Categories of licensure real estate broker. What this is saying, break it down, what are the categories of a real estate broker? Number 1, negotiate any real estate transaction. As a real estate broker, and all the brokers that I work with, it's the fine art of negotiating. Learn how to negotiate a deal, okay? When you give the full price, that's one thing. Most people want to make an offer on properties. So learning how to negotiate a deal, a list or attempt. You're attempting. Anytime you take a listing, it doesn't mean you're going to sell everything that you list. Okay, so you're looking at what's the sense of emergency, and that's additional courses after this. But the category is that you can list for sale, and listing is the foundation of the business. Later on in the chapter, you're going to hear about the different types of listings. Bullet point 3, negotiate a mortgage loan, requires mortgage broker license. And that's a chapter where you could do the mortgage and sell the property. That's going to be coming up. Negotiate or make leases. You know, a lot of times there's a lease and people are looking to see if they can get a better deal. But you can negotiate, and as a broker and as a salesperson, you can write up a lease. And if you're a property manager, you could collect rents. But later on in the chapter, you're going to hear that if you're working for more than one landlord, you must have a real estate license. Otherwise, if you're collecting for one building or one landlord, a license is not required. Sell real estate by auction. You want to be an auctioneer? Get that real estate license. Categories of licensure for real estate brokers. Okay. Exchange real property. Sometimes we call and we learn about the 1031 tax exchange. It's what we call a like-kind exchange, folks. Relocate commercial or residential tenants. Sometimes the job is relocating you. Whether you're a tenant or you're an owner, you need a license. Resale of condos and co-ops. Not only is it a resale, but a sale of a co-op and a condo. There's a lot of stories about co-ops and condos and dealing with the homeowners association or the board of directors. As an agent, you want some advanced information about co-ops and condos later on in added advanced courses that'll be coming in. And check out the last bullet point on the categories of licensure real estate brokers. Sell businesses with 50% real estate value. If you're just selling a business, did you know you don't need a real estate license? But if you're selling a property with a business in it, look what it says. Sell businesses with 50% real estate value. You need a license, folks. We're on chapter 1. What is chapter 1? I'd like you to know what the chapters are. Chapter 1 is license law and regulations. What's the name of the law you're studying? I'm going to go through the rest of this course by making you memorize. Repetition is a mother of skill, and that's why this course is going to be a little bit different, ladies and gentlemen. This is an overview. So you can pass your school test and your state test. Again, my name is Ben, and there's so much information to give, and that's coming for 30 years as an instructor and 52 years in this business. So we want to relate the law. The law is Article 12A. What's the purpose of the law? I'm just going to finish up page 1. It's actually page 7 in our book. Let's sum it up. The purpose of the law is to protect the public. What are you protecting the public from? Unscrupulous real estate agents and brokers and incompetency. You want to get your facts correct, and you don't want to misrepresent information like property size, real estate taxes, insurance heat, what's staying, and we're going to do a chapter, personal property and real property. What is the difference? We just got to take it nice and easy so you're feeling good. Broker and associated licensing fees. To become a salesperson, there's a license fee. How long is the license fee? I hope you're writing everything down, because a license fee is every 2 years. And it used to be $155 for a broker. A broker is now $185. So an associated broker fee is good for how many years? 2 years. All licenses are good for 2 years. So as soon as you pass the test and the license is issued, that is good for 2 years. And there's a fee every 2 years. For a real estate broker, that fee is $185. For an associate broker, that is $185. We're going to break the difference down between an associated broker and a real estate broker. Now, the associated broker works under the association and supervision of the real estate broker. So an associate broker is a broker, but they're kind of mentioned as a salesperson. You're working under the supervision of your broker. But if you're an associate broker, you don't have to join the MLS. You don't have to open an office. You don't have to pay rent. You don't have to buy leads. But you got more experience. To become an associate broker, you're going to hear about the point page. And that is really interesting, how you, from the inception, can become a real estate broker. We covered a couple of pages in chapter 1. What's the name of chapter 1? License law and regulations. What's the name of the law you're studying right now? It's called Article 12A. Requirements for salesperson. What are the requirements to become a salesperson? In order to become a real estate salesperson, you must be 18 years of age. That's the minimum. Doesn't matter if you're 90, you could still become a salesperson. And I'll tell you, I have some people later on in my office, in their 70s, they retired, they wanted to keep busy, and they became licensed. Now, this is important. there are some questions. If I ask you a question, you may say yes and you may say no. But let's bring this up to date. Some questions are yes and no. What am I talking about? If you have a criminal record, can you get a real estate license? The answer is yes, and the answer is no. That's the way some questions are going to be. Yes and no. If you have a criminal record, one more time, can you get a real estate license? Yes. What do I mean by yes? Well, if the judge signs off, if you get a certificate of relief of good standings, then you can get a real estate license. That's good for people to know that may have a record. Okay. And no, if you were falsifying deeds. So it depends on the situation if you can get a real estate license. If you're a citizen, can you get a license? Yes. If you're not a citizen, can you get a license? Yes or no. If you have a resident alien card, then yes. But first, if I ask you if you're not a citizen, that's all it says, then the answer is no. So you have to know how to answer the questions for the school test and the state test. And that's what we're doing here. This is all about an overview, putting you step by step, day by day, to the front of the line that you're going to get that license. And I did show you what a real estate license look like. So now we're on qualifying requirements for a salesperson. Now, in order to get your license, this is good to know. You need a 77-hour course. It used to be 45 hours decades ago. Then it went to 75 hours. Now it's 77 hours. So you need to take a 77-hour course either online or in a school. Some people like to go online, and that's real good. I like to do a lot of things online when they didn't like it as much, folks. Now, the course that you take is good for 8 years. However, if you get a license and the license expires after 2 years, guess what? You got to take the course. Not the course, you got to take the test again, okay? And you have to send in $65. How much is the broker's license? $185. You writing that down? $65 to become a salesperson, good for 2 years. Then you got to renew it. And when it's time to renew, it's going to cost you another $65. An associate broker is how much? $185. A corporation, a broker, an LLC broker, or an individual broker, $185, folks. And if you're an associate broker, you must be sponsored by a real estate broker. Exam. There's a couple of exams, but the main exam is at the end of whether you're online, which they could do it after every chapter, or in a school, they usually do it at the end when the 77 hours are completed. So there's a school number of tests, and then there's a state test. There's one state test. Now, let's go over the fees. The state tests cost you some money, but it really is like a discount price. It's only $15. And how many times can you take the state test? As many times as you want. It's going to cost you $15 to take a state test. A license fee for an agent is $65. A license fee for real estate brokers, $185. I think we got that real important. And if you wrote it down and you just repeat it, you're going to be real good at these numbers, okay? Now, there's an application online, and in some cases, you have to send an application in. If you were licensed already and your license expired, the state of New York is going to want you to mail it in. But up front, they're going to want you to do that online. Demonstrate fair knowledge of English. So you can get an interpreter and things like that, but you have to have a fair understanding of the English language. We're still on a real estate salesperson. So in chapter 1, it's license, law, and regulations. And the first couple of chapters sometimes have a higher percentage of what's on the test because we move on to other areas of law. A real estate salesperson, you can't just go in business and get a license and operate on your own. It doesn't work that way. You must find a sponsoring broker. You know what? You can have more than one sponsoring broker, okay? But you must work under the supervision and the direction of a real estate broker. And anytime you list a property, it's the property of the sponsoring broker. The sponsoring broker could be a corporation, an LLC, or it could be an individual. So a real estate broker can get quite a few licenses, but a salesperson gets one license, and if another broker's aware, they can work with different brokers. But typically, you're getting one identification. We call it a UID number, and that you'll see on your license form. When I show the license again, I'm going to point out some important things that are on the license. The next bullet point: assist clients in buying, selling, or renting property. Assist clients in buying, selling, or renting property. Okay? Who is the client? The client is the one that really pays the way. Okay? And then you're going to hear acronyms like old car coming up later, like in our chapters, folks. We're going for a little part longer of the first part. We're only on a couple of pages because we want to take our time so you understand step by step how to get through this course and understand the business and understand the law. So you're assisting clients in buying. Many times you spend so much time with the buyer that the seller's wondering, I'm paying you because, buyers are shopping around and need so much time when they're looking to make the American dream come true. And many of them have no idea of how it works. But you're assisting clients in buying, selling, and that's where most of us learned how to get started in representing owners and how to sell their property or renting. The quickest dollar right now in this business is to become a rental agent. Later on, we're going to talk more about that. Next bullet point: showing properties to prospective buyers or tenants. Next point: prepares and submit offers under broker supervision. Learning the art of negotiation and an offer binder form creates what we call in law the meeting of the minds. You cannot work independently, must always act on behalf of the broker. But yes, you are an independent broker. You're an independent salesperson. The broker is also independent. And a lot of times there's agreements on that. Earn commission through the broker. You're not supposed to get any money on the side. That's against the law, against Article 12A. If they want to give you extra money, let your broker know about it. And then you guys will figure out how the commissions are going to be split. But a lot of times in cases that I have, clients, buyers, sellers are going to offer you things on the side. The best way is to be honest, ladies and gentlemen. Again, you must complete a 77-hour course. You could do it online, or you could do it in a school. It's the way you prefer. Sometimes both of them aren't as bad. Okay? And every 2 years, folks, you must register again and renew your license. And that fee, how much for a salesperson? Is $65. And for a real estate broker, it's $120. Now we're also going to continue that there's 22 and a half hours of continuing education. You always, as a lawyer, a CPA, a doctor, you need continuing education to stay on top of things in the world, in the United States of America, that change. So you're looking for a review. You're looking to pass the school test. You're looking to pass the state test. The objective and the dream and the mission here is to get a real estate license. Start as a salesperson. There are so many points you're going to hear about for 2 years. I'm going to repeat that later on the PowerPoint. It's 3,500 points. And the point page is not just a point page. It means so much that you can understand what the points are, what they mean, and how you grow a pipeline, and how you could become financially independent. No question about it. That's what we're here to do, to bring this information forward to you, get you on your way. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for the first part. We're going to open up the next. We're still going to be on chapter 1. We have a lot to go. There's a lot of important information. We have people in our room. You may be hearing noises and things like that. But stay focused on this course. There's only one thing you need to do to get that real estate license, is to follow this program. Thank you.